Okay. Hello, everybody, to this Master's Review call for the month of July. Today is a very special call because we've got a very special guest. It's Libby Adams. And the topic for today is mastery of self, letting go of limiting beliefs. We already had a couple of calls on limiting beliefs. As you know, in the master's program, it's really important. And Libby is really great. I mean, it's her job, right? Helping people letting go limiting beliefs. And I got to know Libby in 2008 when I started the Super Trader program, because Van asked every super trader really early on in the program to run through Libby's course, Mastery of Self. And Libby has been working with Van since 2004, and she was teaching the workshop Peak 202, which was the most spiritual workshop that Van offered. It was really a good one. And well, Libby was teaching it with Van, and Libby had the spiritual part, right? And well, let's hear what Libby has to say. She's working with a lot of traders, not only with Van, but with other trading groups. And she's very experienced, and I'm really looking forward hearing what she has to say. Actually, Libby visited me when I was living in Germany. She visited me in Munich in 2009, I think, 2010, and she even came to see my trading room. Right, I remember.
Did.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, I had numerous students. So I still have numerous students in Germany, and it was really great. And we went over to your house and saw your whole trading situation. So it's good to be with your group here, Gabrielle. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk about my most favorite subject in the world, which is you. Okay, the subject today is you. And in order to talk about you, we need to talk about the various forms that the word you can take. So am I able to share my screen, Gabrielle?
Try it. I
Okay,
might need to give you permission.
let's see. I'll show you numerous, yeah, no, I'm good. I'll show you numerous slides today. And what you're going to find out is I say the same thing every time with different slides in a different way. Because the point today that we're talking about is limiting beliefs. But the question underneath it is, who has the limiting beliefs? Who is the one with the limiting beliefs? So that brings up, let me just scroll here to page 5 in my course manual, the idea of, well, who are you? So that we can talk about who's having these limiting beliefs, because everything rises and falls on your sense of identity. And there are 3 possible identities that a person could adopt. The first one, which is the most useful, is the idea of the self. This would be an invisible self that some people will call the superconscious mind. Some people will call it like their conscience, the highest part of you that knows right from wrong and all of this. The idea, let me, you know what, I'm going to share my whole desktop here. Yeah, here. And then I can hop around. Then you can tell me if you're seeing this, a picture of a girl in a bed.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So look at this. And if we're talking about the superconscious mind, well, then it's this right here. Let me get my little annotator. So when we're talking about that first instance of who are you, we're saying the super trader. Think about that word super. The super trader is not the subconscious mind, it's the superconscious mind. And the superconscious mind is this identity of you as an invisible energy that occupies the body, right? So we're saying you're not your body, you're not your thoughts, you are this invisible energy here. And when this, well, if you look at what's happening in this picture, right? what's happening in this picture, if this girl were in a hospital, we're in a hospital room here with a monitor. This monitor is flatlining. It's going beep, like that. So this aspect of yourself is so important that when it leaves your body, meaning when you leave your body, we call you dead. But who's dead? You're not dead. The body is what we call dead. So we can clearly see in this picture that we're not the body. And not everybody has this belief. And this is the most interesting thing. What I'm showing you and what I'm telling you, we can't prove it's true, right? But we can't prove that it's not true. So when I met Van Tharp, it was in 1990, and Van and I were studying our NLP together over on the Big Island of Hawaii in Kona with a guy named Tad James. And our mentor taught us that it doesn't come down, and you will have heard Van say it, and I've said it, but this is where we heard it from Tad James. He said, it doesn't come down to whether it's true or not true. The question is it useful? Is it useful? Would you type in the chat if you've heard that phrase, heard somebody ask you, is that useful? Let me see if I can bring up my chat so I can actually see what's being said. Maybe not while I'm sharing the screen. All right, but I'll look at it in a minute. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Oh, I see it. I see things popping in. Yes, 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 yes. About useful versus not useful, right? Yes, from Van. Okay, perfect. And so that's what I'm proposing. A lot of the things that you're going to see today are not provable, but man, are they useful. This is the foundational belief that I'm sharing with you about what is a super trader. But it also, as I was saying, is a super anything. For example, when was this? Maybe around 2003, my personal trainer's husband was a race car driver, and he drove the Porsche factory cars. Not the NASCAR cars, on TV there you see NASCAR, but then you see the Porsches and the Ferraris and all that kind of stuff. He drove those cars. And she said, I'm afraid he's going to die because he's running into walls. So he went through the course and he got in touch with this invisible superconscious mind. And he said to me, Libby, when I put on the helmet, my superconscious mind, or he said, God is driving the car. And I said, well, apparently it likes to drive fast and safely. And he won #1 in the world that year because of who was driving the car. Now, finishing up with this example, you've heard stories. Would you say, because I want to see about how many people have actually heard these kind of stories. Just type yes. If you've heard the story, I was out of my body and I looked down on the table and they were trying to resuscitate me, but I felt so free and I was floating. And the next thing I know, bam, I was back in my body and it was painful. I was kind of mad about it, right? If I'm seeing Francisco and Gary, it's like, right. So this is the point. We don't need to die to access this portion of ourselves. And so in this, looking before I take this, stop sharing this, if this one comes back into the body, right? Because they got resuscitated, then we look at the monitor. Now the monitor is going beep, beep, beep. And they're like, okay, they're back, right? So let's stop sharing that. And let's go back to the idea of who are you? And I'll share that. Hold on. And we're back to this. So again, I want to give you the context. Why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because we're talking about limiting beliefs. And my question is, who has limiting beliefs? It's certainly not up here. So we've talked about this aspect of your mind. Then this conscious mind here, your conscious mind, and we're not going to read all this stuff, but the conscious mind is logical, rational. Things got to make sense. I call this the captain of the ship, the chooser, right? You say, I'm going to go to the store and I'll get some grapes and I'll get some watermelon and some dog food. Okay, so this is where you make decisions. So there's logic and analysis because you have to make choices. But then here comes the limiting beliefs. The limiting beliefs are what I call the separated self or the little I. And I want to show you this, what I call the transformational meditation model. So I'm going to get rid of this, and let me just go a few more pages. This is my model of the big I versus the little I. I'll make it just a little bit bigger. Transformational meditation model. Here is a picture of the garden variety of limiting beliefs. So we have, down here, I can't blah, blah. Like this would be, I can't follow my rules. I can't stop being impulsive. I can't stop over trading. I'm too impatient. Here, a lot of things happen in trading. I don't deserve it. I can't tell you how many people, it's like I made all that money and then there was like, and I gave it all back. And there was an aspect of like, gosh, that was too easy. I didn't deserve it, or those kind of things. So these out here are the limiting beliefs. But when you saw my who are you model, you saw that that is not who you are. So what we're saying, again, look, here's a different document saying the same thing. I am this, but we can't pretend we don't have limiting beliefs and think they'll go away by just, acting like we don't have them. We do have them, but it's not who we are. So again, we're talking about identity. So this is who you are. This is where you want to be operating. This is whose hand should be on the mouse when you're putting a trade on. This is who you're not. Now, there's good news. The good news is, look, this is already who you are. You are, love, truth, wisdom, power, all of these things, the super trader, the super everything, the super race car driver, the super artist, whatever. You already are it. So what I'm saying, the good news is we don't have to make you this. You are going to transform by subtraction, by getting rid of all of this. And I have a technique that I use called transformational meditation. That's a little bit like doing it is out of the scope of this webinar today. But I will be giving you the opportunity to talk one-on-one about what, some of your limiting beliefs are. I'm not a group teacher. I am a one-on-one teacher because the best way that I can make changes with people is one-on-one. I know this because I taught school in the California public school system for 9 years. I had 6 classes a day with 36 kids. And I realized that's why I got out of teaching public school. I'm still teaching. You can see, like, I am a teacher. I want to impart this knowledge and have you understand what's going on. But when it comes down to only the problem kids or the remedial kids were the ones that got in the public schools called the IEP, the Individualized Education Program. I think everybody should have an individualized education program. And Gabrielle and I have talked about this, about doing work one-on-one and transformation in that way. So transformational meditation, let me give you an example of this is from 2002. There was a pilot. He was a United Airlines captain. Now, United Airlines is one of those airlines that flew into, that were involved in 9/11. Let's put it that way. And when I met him in 2002, he said, Libby, every time I go up in the air, I feel like I'm playing Russian roulette. Now imagine the stress of that's your job, but every time you do your job, you feel like you're going to die. Right? So we did transformational meditation. I'm giving you this example so you can see how it works. And it works through the imagination. The imagination is the operating system to connect with the non-physical world. So you saw that girl, that the spiritual self was non-physical. It's like, well, how do we interface with that? If you and I were sitting in that room and that spirit left her body, would we see it? You can shake your head. Would we see that spirit rising out of the body? No. That's David Bryan. Hi, David. I saw David. It's like, David isn't like, no, we wouldn't see it. Well, then how do we interface with this invisible? Through the imagination. And that's why Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge. When he came up with his theory of relativity and he was kind of studying light, he visualized himself. He imagined himself on the front of a rocket or something. I was just reading about it yesterday. But the point was he interfaced with this non-visible realm, and that's how he discovered the theory of relativity. Now, if I want to know about trading Forex, then Gabriel could teach me his system. That's knowledge, right? And it's sort of horizontal. But when we want to come up with something and think, or like, Gabriel, I'm sure you created things in your trading that didn't exist. You know, you'd seen this and that, and then you kind of came up with your own ideas of how to do things. Where does that information come? It comes from that superconscious mind. It can't be taught. It comes, we could call it vertical information. It's coming in a different modality. The imagination is your tool and vehicle and operating system to be able to interface. And I want to do an exercise in a minute with your imagination so that you can see what I'm talking about. Meanwhile, let's conclude the story of our United Airlines pilot. So I guide him into meditation. I find out, what's his word for universal mind or God or infinite intelligence or super conscious mind. We could use any of that. Remember, you've heard you can't solve the problem with the same level of consciousness that created the problem. That was attributed to Einstein, but he didn't actually say it. So I'm saying it. You can't solve the problem. Whatever limiting belief you have, you can't solve the problem with the same level of mind that created the problem. So which level of mind created the problem? And then we'll get back to our pilot. The level of mind that created the problem is this one right here, the conscious mind. How do parts get created? How do we get limiting beliefs in the first place? Let's reverse engineer. So let's say there's a little girl, and the little girl is going to school, and she's going to have her school play the next day. And she says to her mom, "Mommy, can you come to my play?" And the mother is a single mother, so she can't go. She's got to go to work. And she says, "Oh, no, I'm sorry. I have to go to work." And the little girl's disappointed, but she's okay. She's not coming. But the next day when she's at school, you know how children are so optimistic. And she's behind, the curtain's there. So she looks out in the curtain, out into the audience, and she's thinking, maybe my mommy will be there after all. She's not. But the little girl with her 5-year-old conscious mind analysis says, hey, all the other mommies are there, but my mommy. It's like, no, that's not true. It's like, and then she says, my mommy doesn't love me. I'm no good. And so what happens is from this level of consciousness she's at, she falls into like, this is the level of truth in consciousness, and this is a level of a lie. So she falls in consciousness. So it's sort of like this. So she splits in consciousness, and she has this part. And 30 years later, she's saying to her husband, you don't care about me and you don't love me, based on this program that was created when she's 5 that she doesn't even remember. So that's how parts get created. So the pilot says, I feel like I'm, playing Russian roulette. I say, so close your eyes. And now we're going to move into your imagination. We're going into the subconscious mind right here. So we have universal mind. Here's the superconscious mind. We got the conscious mind. And then we have the non-conscious. Paul Scheele calls it non-conscious. Most people call it subconscious, your subconscious mind. So he's closing his eyes. He visualizes, his word for universal mind was God. So he's visualizing God. And I said, and now imagine the part of you that feels like it's playing Russian roulette every time you go up. And he describes it. I forget what it looks like. And then I said, is the part aware that God is in the other hand yet? And he says, no. I said, well, have it become aware that it's there. And he says, oh, okay, yes. And then I said, does that part trust God? And he said, yes. And I said, So what's God's viewpoint on all that Russian roulette stuff? And God said, I'm flying the plane. And I said, did the part hear that? And he said, yes. I said, would the part like to be able to believe that? He said, yes. So in order to believe it, it's like, here comes the reconciliation. The separated self comes back into the wholeness and the oneness of the truth that he's not personally responsible. Like, yeah, he has to do his job as as the conscious mind. He's the pilot, but universal mind was controlling the whole thing. So that's an interesting shift of a limiting belief back to the truth. Truth is an important commodity. And the other important commodity is consciousness. I would say that consciousness is the currency of the future. Some of you are familiar with David Hawkins' work, and I'm going to bring up this map of consciousness and share it here. So look at this. Would you type yes if you've seen this? Now I can see the things coming in on the chat. And this comes from power versus force. Okay, a lot of people. Power versus force. And so what we're looking for, and I'll show you where limiting beliefs are. All the limiting beliefs are below 200. Look, this is the first arrow that goes down, right? Oh, here's our revenge trading right here. Oh, here, how about pride and arrogance? Limiting belief is, oh, I can predict the market. Anger, oh, revenge trading, I'm going to get my money back. Desire and attachment, no, I can't let my I can't let my profits go because I might lose it and I'm attached to not losing. FOMO, oh, I'm over trading because I'm afraid that I'm going to miss out on a good trade, so I'm just going to jump in even though I'm chasing it, blah, blah, blah. All of these are the limiting beliefs, and in my model, they're all being run by what I call little eyes. So we do not want to be, never want to be trading below 200 on this map of consciousness. We can do a pretty good job of trading, even starting at 200, where you're empowered. Like, just follow your rules, right? As long, see, where Gabrielle and I differ is he actually teaches you to trade. And he also does some, talks about trading psychology, of course. But I speak zero about how to trade and systems and all of those kind of things. So what I say to somebody is, do you have a system you trust? Do you know how to trade? And do you know how to, do you know how to trade? Then my job is helping them actually follow their rules and eradicate all this stuff so they can actually do what they know. The same way, I don't know how to fly a plane, but I knew how to guide that pilot into speaking with God who resolved it. I don't know how to drive a race car, but I knew how to facilitate a process with the race car driver and his higher power. So you can do a pretty good job of trading in here, especially when we're up at like acceptance. Like you just, you're not resisting the market. It just is what it is. You're not attached to what the market does or to your outcomes. You just follow your system. But this up here is the zone of the superconscious mind. I'm going to show it to you again in another. This may be, or it may not be, you never know. The last, or I should say the next document I'm going to show you saying the same thing again. This is one that I created based on identity. So I said to you, everything rises and falls on your sense of identity. There's my quote. And so it goes back to my opening remarks when I said, who's got the limiting beliefs? Right? So the whole goal is to raise your consciousness. And that's why I said the currency of the future is your consciousness being at the top, being at 500, 540, 600 on that map of consciousness. I remember Van and I went to see David Hawkins in San Diego somewhere around 2006, before he passed away. And because he and I both really had a lot of respect, and I still do, for this map of consciousness. And the idea is that we need to recognize that the map of consciousness where we're operating when we're being our true self is right here. Let's see what this says. So in the big I, right? The big I know who I am. And then I want to get a little bit more on here for you. I want you to be able to see the top here. Look, where we talk about be, do, and have, right? So the question is, if we want to be trading effectively, who would you need to be right here to do what you need to do to have what you want to have? A lot of times in trading, people are talking about results. They want to have the results. I want to have these results. It's like, well, great. Who would you need to be then? So you could do what you need to do and follow your rules and all that to have the results. So again, we're back to being here. This is optimal right here. Then if we go to the chooser, the captain says, I intellectually know all that, but I'm not consistently operating from that place. This is 500 plus on the map of consciousness. This here is 2 to 400. It's okay. Look, it says, I'm pursuing my goals and fulfillment. I do a pretty good job. I get pretty good results. And so that's okay too. Down here is the problem. It's like, no, we do not want any of this little I shenanigans trading here. The little I never heard of or forgot who I am. The thoughts are below 200 in the map of consciousness. The ways of being, anger, fear, all that, below 200. I am doing the best I can with the resources I have at the time. However, my best sucks and everyone knows it, and I have bad results. So we're always telling stories. Here's a little I story. I'm unfulfilled, never, nothing I do ever works. I'll never get what I want. But if we're telling stories, we want to tell big I stories. I'm powerful. I am a super trader. I'm in synchronicity with the universe and, all of that. So I'm going to pause for a minute for you to ask questions. I know, Gabrielle, we have questions to ask. I think I'm going to pause here because I've given you, no, that's not true. We're going to do one more thing, then we'll pause. I want to guide you through an exercise activating your imagination so that you can have an experience of the power of your imagination. So you can keep your cameras on or off, whichever you prefer, because your eyes are going to be closed. And I'm going to guide you into your imagination in a minute. So everybody just take a breath and let your eyes close and focus inside, slowing down the rhythm of your breath, extending the inhalation and prolonging the exhalation so that you can move yourself to the subconscious level of consciousness, which is that level of consciousness that's just a little bit slowed down and relaxed, and you can access your subconscious thoughts, subconscious emotions, programming from the past. And the subconscious mind is the gateway to higher consciousness, super consciousness, universal consciousness, using the vehicle of your imagination, using the operating system of your imagination. So if you would, as we take a little journey in the imagination, find a lemon. Imagine a lemon, a yellow lemon that might be in your refrigerator. It might be in a bowl. Just find a lemon and nod your head when you've got that lemon. You found a lemon someplace. You got yourself a lemon, and you are seeing it. You're even holding it. Now hold it. Make sure you're holding it. And check to see when you're holding it, what's the temperature? Is it warm because maybe you found it, on a tree? Is it cold because it was in the refrigerator, or is it room temperature because it was in a fruit bowl? And then see, is it smooth or is it bumpy? So you're feeling that and the temperature. Now, we're going to cut the lemon in a minute. So you need a cutting board. Find a cutting board. Imagine a cutting board. Maybe it's a wooden block, chopping block. Maybe it's one of those white plastic ones. And you'll need a knife. Get a pretty big knife because we're going to forcefully cut this lemon in half shortly. So take your lemon, place it on the cutting board, get your knife, and you're going to slice it the fat way. So just slice it in half and slice it enough to where you actually can hear it hitting the cutting board, the sound of what it sounds like when you cut that lemon. And then cut it one more time. Now cut it, you can cut it gently in a way that you would make a wedge, the kind of wedge that you would put in your iced tea. So now you've got a wedge. And notice that there's juice on your cutting board. If there wasn't before, notice it now. Look, it's a juicy lemon. And you're going to find out in a minute if it's a sweet lemon or a bitter lemon. We'll see what you are creating there. But first, let's smell the lemon. So you're picking up your wedge and sniff it and see how it smells. Kind of lemony fresh. And then take that lemon wedge and bite into it so that the juice is all in your mouth, all around your cheeks. It's a juicy lemon, maybe it's bitter, and swallow a little bit of the juice and watch what happens. Oh, wow. And then open your eyes and come back. At your own pace. Is there someone who could volunteer where something happened and tell us what happened?
Sure, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I love the visceral reactions in my body. Like I could hear the thunk, I could feel the smoothness. The lemon felt cool, and when I could smell it, and when I tasted it, I had saliva in my mouth when we did this exercise.
Are you Todd?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Hi, Todd. Thank you for
Hello.
sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Here's the super interesting thing, everybody. As I was watching, some people had their cameras on. As I was watching, I saw 0 lemons. I didn't see any lemons whatsoever. But raise your hand and to get your cameras back on. Raise your hand if you saw a lemon. Right? You saw lemons. It's like, but wait a minute. I didn't see any lemons. So if you saw lemons, where did you see it? Where did you see those lemons? In your mind's eye. We can call it the third eye, right? You saw the lemons in your mind. You imagined the lemons. So let's talk again about why imagination is more important than knowledge, right? That's how we create things, for better or for worse. Like, I don't know if you've ever been on a plane with somebody who's really scared of flying, but I have numerous times. I remember this one lady, she was grabbing her pant legs so hard, she was literally lifting her legs off the ground as we were taking off. And I talked to her a little bit, distracted her a little bit. But the point is, we already know what she was imagining. She's imagining pictures of fiery plane crashes. And remember that because it's subconscious, that means out of your conscious awareness. She's not really aware of the pictures she's imagining, but we know she has them by her reaction. The same way, by your reaction of your face, we know you were doing something in your imagination. You just imagine those lemons. But the point of it is, it doesn't mean it's not real. In fact, the imagination creates such a real effect. I actually call it non-physical or invisible reality. And we know from manifestation, invisible reality causes visible reality. Therefore, it is vital to know how to operate in the realm of the sixth sense. So where we just went was into the sixth sense. Everybody understands over here the five senses, right? And the five senses can, Gabrielle, would you nod if you can see my document of the five senses? Okay. So the operating system of the five senses is obviously the physical body. You know, you have eyeballs that see and eardrums that hear. We don't need to explain all of this, and it deals with visible reality. I like to call it, it's like a PC computer. But there is an internal equivalent for each one. For sight, then there's inner sight. That's where you saw the lemon. If number two is hearing, you heard it on the cutting board with your inner hearing. That's what we call, you know, the little voice, where people say, why didn't I listen to my little voice? Feeling and touching, you know, I could touch the screen and it feels soft, but you touch that lemon with your inner feeling. But this is also the other type of feeling where you have your intuition, is your internal feeling system, your internal guidance of your feeling. Like you could be at a restaurant and you're about ready to walk out, and Gabrielle and I are walking out, and Gabrielle says, you know what, I have a bad feeling about this. Let's just wait a minute. And so we do, and a car hops up on the curb and runs, you know, crashes into the building. So everybody's had that experience. That's what I call number 8. Then number 9, how did you taste that lemon with your inner taste? Chefs have a very developed sense of their inner taste, where they can taste something and they're saying, you know, this would need some oregano, you know, which I'm not very good at. And then the inner smell, you smelled that lemon. So I took you through the exercise of 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, remember, your higher self, your spiritual self, the super trader, utilizes 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. But so do the little eyes. So does the lady that's imagining a fiery plane crash, and now she has, you know, the inner feeling of terror and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. But I wanted to make a big point about the imagination, because that's how we can deliberately create what we want, or inadvertently, when the little eyes get a hold of those 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, scare ourselves. Or that's where the limiting beliefs live. And so we need to have tools and skills to be able to get these limiting beliefs out of 200 back up into 600, where back into the truth and the wholeness. All right, now I will pause for questions, but I wanted to make sure we did that imagination exercise.
Yeah, Todd is raising his hand. You have a question right away, Todd?
No, sorry, I was raising my hand
The volunteer.
when you asked if I had seen a lemon.
Yes. Yes.
I'll lower it.
Thank you for that, Todd. And not everybody may have had the same experience as Todd, but this is the thing. It takes some practice to be able to navigate in 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, because it's not anything that people have taught you, right? One of the reasons, as I was mentioning, that I had to leave school teaching is I wasn't teaching people the skills and tools of self-knowledge to know who you are, and to raise your consciousness to live and operate as the true self that you are. You know, one of my favorite quotes is, the greatest gift you can give the world is to have a life that works. So who would you need to be, right? We need to be operating in this higher level of consciousness. I don't think I said it when I was talking about when Van and I went to see David Hawkins, but he and I promised each other, like we made a deal back in 2006, that we would learn to operate at 600 on the map of consciousness. You know, not every second, but I think we he and I talked about it toward the end, and I said, you know, I think we did a good job in what we set out to do on that. Okay, back to your questions, if any.
Either type in chat or better speak up.
Or, you know what? Not just questions. What would be awesome are comments. Like, well, what do you think about this? What do you think about what I said? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is it
Actually,
yeah, Libby, I've got a comment.
Todd?
I'm really excited by your level of enthusiasm. And I wanna kind of grab it and hug it and keep some for myself. So how do I do that?
Well, you know what? You bring up a good point. I told Gabrielle that I was going to make an offer for this group. I have a trading psychology assessment that I do, and it's $299. I spend 30 minutes and we talk about all of this stuff, your level of consciousness, what limiting beliefs do you have, you know, my suggestions on what I think that you could do about that. But I didn't want to charge this group. I didn't want to charge Gabrielle. So on my website, Gabrielle, should I have you explain that? What that is?
I'm going to send around a link. Well, you're basically getting a bonus, a discount code, right?
Yeah.
And then if you type it in well, I'll provide the information. Then you get it for $1, right? Instead of
$1. Well, I think it's $1.99. I wanted to do it for free, but Stripe won't allow it. Stripe won't let you have a zero product. So I made up a code. So from $299, $299, it goes down to $1.99. If that stops working, I might have to put a percentage if there are different currencies. If I do a percentage and I change the coupon, it'll be 99% off. So either way, it'll be under $3. Okay. And what we'll do is I will talk to you and I will share my enthusiasm with you, Todd, and talk to me. And I'm enthusiastic about, well, what's going on with you and how can I help, right? And what can I suggest? In that 30 minutes, we'll talk about trading stuff, but remember everything, who you are is the key, right? Who are you being as a husband, as a wife, as a son, as a whatever your job is that you do, as a trader, you know, that there in my work, nothing is ever out of the scope of this work of who you are being, of your identity, right? And then it just kind of trickles in. But because we are talking about trading, that's a great place to start about, you know, where are the limiting beliefs going on in your trading? And the thing that I wanted to tell you, Todd, and everyone else can listen, I've been teaching this transformational model for over 30 years. And I never get tired of talking about it because it's so life-changing when people can actually move into their true identity. Like the way we're going to change the world is by one person at a time raising their consciousness. That's the solution. I will make a recommendation of a book. The new version of my book will be coming out pretty soon, but I'm not going to talk about that at this second. First, I want to recommend Wayne Dyer. Would you type yes in the chat if you've read Wayne Dyer? Not if you've heard Wayne Dyer, just if you've read it. Edward, Rick, Patrick, let's see, Gary. Okay, a lot of you. Okay. I think that his best book is the one called There Is, and maybe somebody can type this in the chat. There is a spiritual solution for every problem. So for every limiting belief, because the limiting beliefs are the ones causing the problem. So for every limiting belief, he's saying the problem, that the solution, the answer is spiritual. The reason we have a limiting belief is because obviously that part does not know who we are. And we are going to transform through subtraction. When I showed you that big eye and then the little satellite, the little eyes all around it, imagine like the boats in a marina. The boats in a marina have to hire guys in scuba gear with crowbars to go underneath the hull of their boat and to get the barnacles off of the boat, right? That would be like us, the little eyes. We got to get the barnacles off because there's nothing wrong with the hull of the boat. It's the barnacles. So you transform via subtraction. My
We've
book.
got a few questions lining up.
Go ahead.
Petra, I think, and Yolanda.
Yes, I'm ready.
Petra, please start because you were first.
Thank you, Yolanda. I just wanted to hand it over to you. Are you sure, Yolanda? Okay. Thank you, Libby, for this presentation or for
You're
your
welcome,
insight.
Petra.
It's very, very interesting. I have a question.
Sure.
Looking at the last sheet, and I have noticed that you're working also with affirmations. And for me, an affirmation is, for me, but maybe I understand this in a wrong way, is manifesting a future self. So you are actually working with manifesting a future self and not just merely allowing the universal intelligence to come through. Is that correct?
Actually, I don't. Okay, affirmations have two purposes. One purpose is not transformation.
Mhm.
Affirmations will not transform a person. We can say affirmations till it comes home. We can say, I'm a great trader. I follow my rules. My profit and loss is like skyrocketing. And then those little eyes say, who are you kidding? Come on, look at your bank account. You can't do that. And furthermore, you don't even deserve it. So I don't use affirmations for transformation because it would be, Petra, as if your jumbo jet of abundance and great trading results is about to land at the airport and the little eyes are at the end of the runway with surface to air missiles and blow it up, say, no, you can't, no, you don't. So I don't use that for transformation at all.
I see.
When I use the affirmations are when you actually are in your true self. And then when you speak it from that place, when Big I says the affirmation, you're actually affirming what's already true. I am powerful.
Yeah, basically,
all of that like that. Go ahead, Petra.
Yeah, this makes sense now because the affirmations don't work if you're not already connected with your higher self. And what you then have to, what then happens is that you act as if it's already here. And that's how you manifest, no?
Well, we go even one step farther, Petra.
Uh-huh.
We not only act like it's already here, we act like it already happened. It's already done in the past. So we imagine it's like, yeah, I got my new house. I got the keys to my new house this morning. And when I went in, it was even better than I thought. I saw that coffee maker that the owner left, and that was so awesome. Everything, past tense, past tense, past tense. Because what message is it sending? It's already done. It's done. Tad James taught us that in our NLP, and he called it the secret of creating your future. It's in the past. It's already done. That's the feelings that go with it.
That is really interesting, Libby. Sorry, because I always understood it to have it in the present tense.
Yes, I know. Present would be my number 2 choice. Past is number 1.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're so welcome. I want to do another closed eye exercise with you all. I want to teach you a super short meditation, and it's called the connection meditation. Petra reminded me of it when she said about, when you're already connected with your true self. And I want this one to be, you can either, depending on those 4 levels of mind, whether you resonate the most with the idea of, see, here, let me show you this.
Well, Yolanda had another question.
Okay, yeah, let's go to Yolanda because I didn't see her there. So go ahead.
Maybe
Yolanda.
somebody else. Let's not cut it short, the Q&A. If somebody else has a question, please come up. Okay, Yolanda?
Okay, Libby, you were talking about the pilot, the example.
Yes.
And what I understood is that you had the imagination and you had the superconscious in one hand. One hand the superconscious, one hand the imagination. And then later you talked about God. So what is the connection of all three of them?
Yeah, I'll show you. Now
Okay.
remember that the imagination is simply the operating system we're using. So they imagine God or they imagine their higher self. Let me show you this, Yolanda. And then I want to do that close eye exercise, and then I want to come back and see what additional questions you have. So we'll end up with questions again. But I'll give you more to ask questions about. So look, in these 4 expressions of mind, we have, depending on people's beliefs, right? We have universal mind, which people will call God, infinite intelligence, the universe, that. And then there's the superconscious mind, which is like if the universe is the ocean, then the superconscious mind is a drop of water in the ocean of the universe. So it's more individuated, but still, see, remember, this one created the problem. And remember, this one uses the 5 senses only. But so we can't solve the problem. And then once that separated self splits off, it lives down here. You might not be able to see this, but this says stores the little eyes. Once this part is split off, we can't reach it with logic. So notice that universal operates in the 6th sense. Now that you know what that is, superconscious operates in the 6th sense. Subconscious operates in the 6th sense. So 3 out of the 4 minds are operating in the 6th sense. And the way we are accessing these 3 minds is the imagination. So the imagination is what we use for that. So if somebody doesn't have a belief in universal mind, it's like, well, don't bring out God or don't bring out the universe. Just bring out your superconscious mind. This one and this one is enough to be able to heal and restore the little eyes, but not the conscious mind. Did that answer it, Yolanda?
Yes, thank you very much.
And so I want to activate your imagination again, this time having the conscious mind access either the superconscious or the universal. I'll say universal, but you choose whatever mind you want, whether it's God, your higher self, whatever your higher power is, that's what you're going to access. And it's a 60-second meditation. And I'm going to set my timer for 60 seconds once your hands come together. So the idea is simply connecting. And Petra reminded me of that. It's like, well, but when I'm connected with my higher self or when I'm connected with God, then say an affirmation, right? So in this exercise, you're going to imagine, not a lemon this time, you're going to imagine some symbol for your higher power. Maybe it looks like a tree. Maybe it looks like the sun. Maybe it looks like Jesus. Maybe it looks like Buddha. Maybe who knows what it's going to look like. You're imagining that. Then I say, imagine a picture of you, Petra. And what do you look like? And then you kind of think of what you look like. And then I'm going to say, so is your conscious mind aware of I'll just call it the higher power generically, of the higher power. And then if it's not, I'll say, well, have it become aware. Remember, you're imagining it. So imagine it becoming aware. And then once it becomes aware, we'll just ask a question. We'll say, the conscious mind will say, do you have a message for me? Anything you want me to know? And then bring your hands together and I'll give you 60 seconds right there. And then we'll ask further questions afterwards and comments from this exercise. So everybody take a breath and let your eyes close again. We're going back inside. And we're dropping into the subconscious mind by creating a slowed down rhythm of breathing. We're extending the inhalation and prolonging the exhalation. And you can create a physical chain reaction there may be some noises coming outside of my apartment, and you can just let those go. A chain reaction where the respiration slows down, causing the heart rate to slow down. And then the brain waves slow down to the subconscious level of consciousness. That is the level of consciousness where you can access your subconscious thoughts, subconscious emotions, programming from the past. And the subconscious mind is the gateway to higher consciousness. It is the interface using the imagination to connect with the higher levels of consciousness. So when you're ready, go ahead and put your 2 hands out. So your palms are facing upward, as if we would put an apple in one hand and an orange in the other hand. And in one hand, imagine a picture that would symbolize your higher consciousness, whether it's universal mind or superconscious, whatever you're the most comfortable with and that you resonate with. And imagine how that looks as you're making up a picture. As if I gave you a piece of paper and some markers and said, draw a picture of how you envision your higher power to look. And in the other hand, imagine a picture of you, the conscious mind, the one that uses your name. And then have your conscious mind, have yourself, your human self there, looks over and becomes aware of the higher power. And if it's not, say, hey, look over there. Look over there. And just sort of, you nudge the pictures like, hey, look over there. And then your conscious mind is saying, oh, hello. It's like, hello. And here comes the connection, asking the question, do you have a message for me? Anything you want me to know? And then bring your hands together and just sit quietly. Just be still and listen. And then whatever energy or images you have on your 2 hands, go ahead and take that back inside and open your eyes and come back at your own pace, taking all the time you need. And then you can put comments in the chat of what happened. You can raise your mechanical hand for questions or further comments as we're wrapping up now, but we have time to finish up your questions or comments. Sometimes people have profound experiences. Sometimes not much happens. which just is an indicator that you've got to develop the skill and that connection, because sometimes it takes a bit of growth, a bit of skill in navigating in the imagination. David, Brian, you have something to say, I see.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I've done this exercise with you at Cary in Peak 202, and I've done the 2 exercises just now today. And every time I participate in this, I'm struck by how clearly effective it is. Has no difficulty whatsoever in following the instructions, in getting the imagination, and then every time I ask for a message or a communication, it then happens. And I don't know ahead of time what the communication is going to be, but the request made for a communication is received and responded to, and a communication comes back, and it's clear and it's comprehensible, and the captain hears and understands the message, and that happens for me every time. So I'm just struck by that my own experience of following your technique is that it functions with clear and forceful effect consistently.
Thank you, David. And I look in the chat, some of the messages that people got. And what you're going to notice is the messages are short. I gave you quite a bit a long time, but really it's about a 10-second, 15-second tops when those hands come together. Boom. It's like, I am in you. I am you. You are loved beyond measure. You are safe, well, and happy. Right. And that's just the connection that happens. Anika, I didn't know that you were here. I just saw you. Good evening. Do you have anything to add about this or the process that you've experienced?
Well, David just explained it very well, that this is the same thing that I love about your work. It's because it's so easy and so practical and very effective at the same time. And yeah,
Thank you. I love the word practical. Practical. See, like we can talk about, oh, you should do this, 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 this. You should connect with your higher power. You should. It's like, well, how am I going to do that? Right? I spend most of my teaching in how are we going to do it? Like why I wanted to give you these 2 exercises just as examples of, I can say, well, imagination is more important than knowledge. But it's like, well, how is that? Why would that be? And then do a limit exercise and go, dang, you know what? I see that the imagination in the non-physical affects my physical results. So maybe, there's more to the power of the imagination than I understood. Or a connection meditation. Oh, you should connect with your higher power. Well, how am I going to do that? Right? Well, this is how. This is one form. And you notice it's not long. And the purpose is just to connect and get a simple message. This isn't transformational meditation where we're bringing out a limiting belief. That one needs to be facilitated. But this is just simply to connect. Petra, back to you. And then we may be about ready to close out. And Yolanda. Oh, okay. I see. Petra, did I saw your hand up.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, Libby, that I really appreciate this practical approach too, because I think that many of us have this fear of we do spiritually something right or wrong, or we can't get it right, and which is actually it's building up within us, and then we approaching it less and less. While in fact it can be really the simpler it is, the quicker the better it is.
Yes.
So thank you very much for your
You're welcome. Thanks for saying that, Petra. Yolanda? And then we'll go back to Gabrielle.
Yes, thank you. I sometimes mix them up, so sorry for my question, but if for the exercise you did now, you have the captain, I suppose, the you.
Yes, the captain, you.
Yeah, and you have the higher power or your higher self.
It could be, yeah, your higher self. It could be God, your higher self, whatever is higher than we have those 2 levels of mind. Yes. What's your question?
My question is, suppose I do this exercise on my own.
Yes.
And I'm going to talk to ask if there's someone has a message.
Yes.
Who am I? Who is doing the talking when I have two parts of my hands? And who am I asking the questions?
Okay, it's a great question, Yolanda. So we've imagined your higher power, and your higher power is your higher power. And then there's you. So you're asking the question, and then your higher power is doing the speaking, the answering.
Oh, okay. So if I ask the question, then it's just me.
It's you asking.
Only two are in this script.
Only two are in this. Right. Whatever, either your higher self or God or the universe or your superconscious mind, whatever of those, the first and second top spiritual minds, whichever you prefer. And then your conscious mind, you, Yolanda.
Yeah.
Yolanda asked the question. Yolanda is seeing, and Yolanda is listening, but then they come together. And so then you can kind of feel the oneness, which is sort of like why we heard Francisco talking about, I am in you, I am you. Like once that oneness comes together, you realize we're not really separate. The separateness is a little bit of an artificiality. So we're really looking to be just one. But that's a whole, that's a whole practice. Sometimes I'm going to say something that may sound kind of strange. Sometimes people overestimate their ability to do their transformational work on their own. There's a reason I'm in business, right? It's because most people can't do it on their own because it takes a lot of training, right? And if you're doing it on your own, well, you may be the one who has the limiting belief. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it, right? So we're looking for someone who's not you, who can guide you into resolving this stuff that's going on with you. And so sometimes I hesitate to say it, but if there was another way to do it, I would tell you. I'd say, don't worry, I got this book. You just go read it. It'll be great. We don't even need a workshop. You can do it on your own. But I don't say that because after 30 years, it's just not my experience that people can. And especially in the United States where I'm from, and in other countries too, there's a lot of, we could do it ourselves and, all that. It's like, yeah, well, at this point, a lot of people have been trying and start to recognize maybe I can't do it on my own. So that's why I'm here. I don't know why I said all that, Yolanda, but I did. There you have it.
Thank you.
Back to you, Gabrielle, with my thanks.
Well, maybe one last question, or if it's not coming up, let's see, last chance for a question, because we had a good couple of questions. Charlie, okay, last one.
Hello, Libby. How are you?
Oh, Charlie.
I often experience trading in the zone at higher levels of consciousness.
Yes.
And I have found that is where the best quality patterns come from that deliver the best R results.
Yes.
I find myself trusting to take about half of them, and for some strange reason, not trusting about half of them.
Okay.
And my results would be way better if I just trust them all. And I'm not quite sure what the block is there.
Okay. So the block is there is a part of you that doesn't trust what's going on in the zone. So you're in the zone and and this part is separate, right? It's good. Well, I don't trust all that.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't trust, like, I'm not taking that. Right. So that's what's happening. So this part needs to stop being separate and stop saying that nonsense and get back into the oneness where would allow you to do what you just described. And so the good news is it's just one part. It's not all of you. Like some people have, 20 parts are like, I'm not taking it. I'm not taking it. I don't trust. I don't trust. Trust is one of the biggest things. There are two concepts in my work that are the most important. Number one is truth. We need to know the truth about stuff, including who you are. And number two is trust. If we're going to lean into this invisible, non-physical realm, man, the five senses aren't going to take us there. You know, Buddha's not going to come in and sit down next to me, right? We have to imagine it. So, and that's a process. Trust is a process that gets developed over time. Trust isn't a one and done. It's probably the slowest of all the processes, is learning to trust. Or what Neville Goddard says, we have to learn to transfer our loyalty from the visible to the invisible, Charlie. And that's a whole skill to be developed, but that's an explanation of what's going on.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Things I noticed is that, you know, while developing that observer self in my mind, it's so quiet, whereas the thinking mind is very, very loud. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's hard to trust that higher level of consciousness observer versus the thinking mind.
Yes, and especially there are two thinking minds. There's the conscious mind, which isn't really interfering too much. It's saying, hey, you know what, that looks like a good pattern, like good thinking. That what I call that like nonsense thinking mind or monkey mind are the little eyes. They don't have anything good to say. And they're just a big distraction, and they cause you not to be able to take the optimum action. Those are the barnacles that need to be removed so you can do what you know to do and do more of what you just said that you do. That I love that you said that, Charlie, so people can start to get the idea that there is this zone that, you know, when Mark Douglas was talking about trading in the zone, this is the zone that you're trading in. But if you have separated self, or my definition of the ego is the collection of all the little eyes. If we have a separated self, they are not in the zone. And they pull you out of the zone and knock you out of the zone. So that's why they're the number one target, because every one of them has a limiting belief. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot. Let's close it here. It was very good to reconnect with you, Libby.
Yeah.
And now it might be time for you to connect with Libby. I mean, she made you this proposal, right? To have a free one-on-one call, basically with her for 30 minutes for $1, $2, or $3. And I'm going to send out some information and the recording of this. And we might have her back next year, maybe. I'm pretty sure we'll do that.
I would love that. Thank you. You're welcome, Kip.
Okay.
I'm reading your comments. Now they're coming in fast. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for showing up.
Thank you so much, Libby. Bye-bye.
Pleasure.
Bye.
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 Thank you, Libby. Bye.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Thank you, everyone.